Service Alliance community. How y'all doing today?
Morning, everybody.
I feel bad for my co-hosts. Y'all gotta watch me ADD wiggle while that song is rocking and rolling in the pre-roll.
Yeah. And then we all come in like, yeah, what's up, people?
Yeah,
Right?
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You kind of ruined it for us all. Even when you're not on, the rest of the week, we all have to sit there and roll up on this high end music and just go, morning, everybody. You know, I mean, and you said you were going to work on a fade, but what I think you're doing is just continue to try to make you look better than the rest of us, Saturday, right?
Oh,
No,
come
I'm
on
just kidding.
now. Come
Just
on
kidding.
now. We're gonna talk about that today. Law of empowerment.
Absolutely.
Uh, Barriers to empowerment. Good morning, Jose. By the way, I love this. I love that these guys have all started to draw out the good morning in the text. It's one of my favorites.
All right,
Good
Joe. We got
morning,
to
Jeremy.
make
Good
that a
morning,
two
Adam.
line sentence. Good morning, Nick. Tomorrow, will you, Joe? Good morning.
Too funny, too funny. Quick shout out. I don't know if you follow my personal page, you might have seen it. If not, the Tech Circuit, Mr. Steve Morrison sent me a coffee cup to use on the grind. I love it, man. I'm a sucker for a good coffee cup. You give me a good coffee cup, we're friends for a long time, probably
Yeah.
forever.
Well, and plus you keep plugging him. This is the second time, so and the guy's business has tripled since you've been drinking from his cup. So, good job, Steve. You're a
Yeah, if you
smart man.
haven't, if honestly, if you haven't checked out the Tech Circuit page, we do repost a lot of his stuff sometimes. Like he'll hey guys, this is a great post. Cool. All right, we'll drop the link to it. He does a really good job. He ranks up there as one of the smartest guys I know as far as the technical side of things go. If I got a question, I'm reaching out to him usually.
Well,
So
smart is great, but willing to give to the community is makes it just times 10, which is
yeah,
pretty
for
great.
sure.
So, thank you, Steve.
Yeah, he's a solid guy. He's definitely one of our favorites. He actually is one of our experts over there in the Service Alliance group, tech support group. He does a great job. We appreciate him. Man, so this is a great topic for the day. We'll get into prayer here in a minute, but you and I are kind of both living these 21 laws
Mm,
almost in real time. I was telling you that today's law and today's barrier are I'm running right into this. Not
mm,
personally, I'm trying to break through the barrier,
yeah.
but there's some holdover from the way previous management did things,
Mhm.
and I'm having to kind of reassure and break some strongholds within an organization.
As leaders, we are storytellers, right? There's a narrative that has a future with a goal in it, and we need to tell that story and get people to get excited about being a part of it. And you have to undo the history.
Yep.
You know, there's been so many quotes over the years from action that never really happened. Like, your ass is mine till 6 o'clock, said Jay. What? I've never heard Jay speak like that ever. But that was somebody hearing something else that heard something else. And then all of a sudden, and now there's technicians that were hired less than a year ago. And I heard this phrase, you're mine till 6. That's how Jay feels. I'm like, what are you talking about? Where are you getting this from? So narratives that come up that aren't even real that you have to break a lot of those myths, I'm sure, uh, where you're working now. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it wasn't from the owner. It wasn't from my friend Matt. It was actually from the self-appointed vice president of operations, who is no longer. And it was reality. I mean, so I'm experiencing it as I'm digging through software and digging through all the other stuff. Like, I'm seeing where she put walls in place so that no one could kind of get around it, and everyone had to go straight to her. So she was the hero of the day. And that's a dangerous precedent to set, right? And it leaves people with a bad taste. And so, as we were talking in the pre-roll, a lot of times when we as leaders are trying to make the change, yourself, myself, we've shared our stories. There's a resistance to that. Like, we want one thing, we're trying to help them but it's being perceived as the opposite, and we'll dig into that more as we go
Yeah.
on. But
There's no
that's kind of
empowerment there, right? No empowerment at all to stand in line for your help. So, you know what, Saul? It was sometimes the beginning of the day can be a lot worse than it really is. I learned that as a technician. Don't look at your schedule and don't imagine what's going to happen. You know, the end of the day usually works out. It was a great day yesterday, Saul. You know, thanks to Zach here. I've got the gratitude journal going. Finished up with the morning grind with EJ and made him one of my 3 great things for the day. For appreciating his friendship and relationship and the way we encourage one another. So yeah, Saul, you know, yesterday turned out to be a pretty damn good day. So thank you for praying and thank you for being part of my family, Saul.
So I'm going to pull an excerpt out of my gratitude journal. Number 1 on the 5 grateful things today, Doug's friendship.
Yes. We can take stuff like this for granted, Zach. We really can in a flash of a.
We can. There's times where I've said I'm just grateful for a good grind. Like we had a great conversation, and like stuff like that.
We can build off of that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll talk about. Well, you're welcome. I'm glad you're doing it. I wish I could take credit for this idea. I'm just encouraging it.
Yeah.
We can talk about that more later. But you want to pray us in, brother?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Lord God, you know every hair on every child of God that you created. And the idea that you can build a universe and make such beauty, but then promise and say and be the God who loves each one of us more than all of that we are your greatest creation, Lord, that you can make millions and billions of us and love each one of us better than our own mother and father, to know our hearts, to know when our hearts skip a beat of joy and sadness, to know those moments, to know our deepest, darkest thoughts before we even know them. To be that God is the greatest gift of all time. And so, Lord, we just pray that you just open the curtain a tiny bit more today and show each one of us a little bit more about who you are, because in those little tiny doses, our life can be inspired and blown away and excited, and our mindsets can change in a flash of an instant. We call those miracles, Lord. So we just pray for a little miracle for each one of us today. We just pray that our lives be filled with your love and that we reflect that out into the world. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Morning, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
So, if you didn't catch the description, we are on the law of empowerment this week. And this particular part of the law of empowerment is something Doug and I have talked about before. It's something we're both currently living in real time. And what it is the first barrier to the law of empowerment. And it is the desire for job security. A leader desires to retain control, to make themselves important, to put themselves on a pedestal, to be the way, the hero, the whatever you want to call it, right? And it's an internal desire. It's a selfish, foolish desire, really. And it is one of the greatest enemies to empowerment, and is one of the greatest enemies to an effective team, because you begin to build this fortress around, and that doesn't allow things to flow freely. So, one of the first things that he says, they worry that if they help subordinates, then they become dispensable. And as I shared in the description, the truth is the only way to make yourself indispensable, and this is a quote from John Maxwell, is to raise up leaders. If you are continually empowering others to help them develop so they will be capable of taking over your job, you become indispensable. By developing others, you actually become indispensable. Awesome.
Now, in the pre-roll, you brought up two pretty important characters, kind of lived this one through a little bit. Do you remember what we were chatting about?
I do. I do.
You
Do you
might
want to
bring.
share? Do you want to
Well,
do the Doug parable thing? Because we
well,
haven't had one of those in a while.
well, no, it's not. No, but you're gonna probably have a different take on it because we
Of
didn't
course.
speak in detail. But David was disappointing or knocking Saul on his feet the whole time, right? So they're at war with the Philistines, and they're about to have a big battle, and the Philistines are taunting Saul and the kingdom, saying, "Bring on your best warrior," and they didn't have one. And then David comes along, and he goes and he takes care of business and knocks down the giant. And of course, they start to sing the song about Saul and his victories, but then they change to the new song about the Song of David. And that immediately took King Saul off his throne in his own mindset, which is pretty amazing. And then from there, created a bitterness and a downward spiral for Saul for the rest of his life. And at some point, after he's pursuing David, try to kill him, he's asleep, and David comes upon him, and David could take him out, and he chooses not to. And that's the part that blows me away, that we have to have peace and rest in where God has put us and trust God. And that's what Saul did. So David chose not to kill Saul because he trusted God, who was even more powerful and bigger than Saul. Now, Saul dies. And what does David do? He goes and mourns and laments Saul's death. That right there is a genuine and authentic servant of God, knowing that even though that man wanted to kill him, and maybe David didn't love him, David stayed true to God and trusted that God had Saul there for a purpose in spite of all that. That is a solid foundation to stand on. Meanwhile, in the real world, I'm running a tiny little appliance company compared to the kingdom of Israel. And every once in a while, when I can't accomplish a task or a goal or put a spreadsheet together, I start to question my job security, right? Even though I'm supported by Jay, and it just gets into your head. It creeps into your head. So David set the benchmark for me.
You want to know the saddest part of that story for me? You summarized it perfectly. The saddest part of that story for me is that Saul had the potential to be an amazing leader. Saul had the potential to grow this other amazing leader and create a lasting legacy, right? One of the 21 laws, is the law of legacy, which we'll get to later. I think into next year. I think it's the last law. But Saul had this potential to build up David and had this potential to grow this other leader and really help and encourage him. And for those of you who have mentored, you understand that helping and mentoring and growing other leaders, you actually end up getting a lot more. And if you haven't experienced that, get out there and start mentoring and helping to build others up, and then you'll begin to see, like, it's almost a selfish thing. Like, you get so much more back than you're actually giving out, whether you realize it or not. So Saul had this amazing chance. Instead, he decided to build this whole little fortress around himself, and he lost that chance to live the law of empowerment, to be able to build up this young man David, and create a lasting legacy, and be blessed himself, right? So that's the saddest part of the story for me. He lost that chance, really.
It's hard to stay humble when success grows around you, right? It's hard to not recognize that it's a gift from God, or that if you don't believe in God, that it's a team. Like, you can't build an appliance business on yourself. You can be a one-man show and be successful, but if you build something, you will need a team, and you've got to stay humble as a leader, for sure. I was teaching in our confirmation class, whatever, the 7th graders, 8th graders, a while back, this story. And one of the children, we asked what their observation was, and he said, Saul and David both did good things, and Saul and David both did horrible things. And he goes, but the difference was that when Nathaniel the prophet came up to David and said, you have been wrong. You're doing wrong things.
You're the
He,
guy. Like,
you're
you're the
the
guy.
you did it. Yeah. Nathaniel shares a story, and he's like, well, that guy needs to be punished. And he's like, well, it's you. And in a second, David repented to God. He stayed humble. He's the king. And he was embarrassed. He basically was called out through a story and tripped up by a prophet, and he immediately repented to God. And that is staying on track with your creator. That's where we need to be, right, Zach? You and I
actually shared that verse last week. I mean, it's a perfect example of leadership.
Yeah.
Like, when you're wrong, dude, own it. Like, just own it. You know what I mean?
I haven't even done some of the things David's done. I've never killed anybody or slept with their wife or plotted murder. So David has even set the bar there. We're okay, guys. We've only forgot to call a customer back yesterday. Oops, it's not as bad as plotting to kill your general and friend. So yeah, bar's been set. We can do this. We can do this. Yeah,
I love it. So, quote from Teddy Roosevelt from the book: the best executive is the one who has the sense to pick good men to do what he wants done, and self-restraint to keep from meddling with them while they do it. Ooh, boy. Ooh,
yep.
Boy.
Yeah, that hits it right on the head, doesn't it?
Yes, sir, it does. So if we build these walls up, right? If we build ourselves up and we begin to just like, I'm the important one and it's all about me, we go back to the law of the lid, right? And I know we didn't talk about that a ton on the grind, but the law of the lid is your organization will only ever grow as high as your leadership. So if you're a 3, your organization will never grow beyond a 2.
Right.
Like, because it's capped at you.
Yeah.
Now, if you bring in a 5 or a 6, all of a sudden your organization has the potential to go higher, right? But if it's all about you and you're not developing other leaders and you're not developing yourself, you're just stuck. It's a sad place to be. What's been your experience as you've been building up other people? Like, you shared a struggle that you're going through right now in your company with building someone up. Like, let's talk about that.
Yeah. Well, the latest thing that's been running in my head is the light bulb moment. That's my job, our jobs, in all our relationships around us. If we can encourage someone or guide someone to have their very own light bulb moment, that's when I think forward progress happens in someone's life. If somebody is used to being spoon-fed and led moment by moment, not independent, not empowered, that's a place that you can become complacent and very comfortable in. And now you're like the mama bird trying to push them out of the nest. That is, you're waiting for that light bulb moment. And so it's the stupid law of the lid, Zach. Thank you very much for that ridiculous book. Was like a smack to the face that I have been able to lead, and we're not out of business, so we're fairly successful, but it's mostly out of my experiences and the wisdom that I've gained from my experiences. And that is it. So when you say, hypothetically a 3, the best you can get to is a 2, that puts that really calls me out to say that I need to stretch and grow as a leader. And I can't rest on what I know I'm good at. I need to grow and get better at the things that I'm not. And I need to find people around me in the meantime and moving forward. I always want to be better at the things I suck at, but
Mhm.
I would always pick someone who's really great at it and bring them on and have them be a part of the team. That's excitement. So that's where we're going. Right now, I'm stuck in the mud and my shoe just fell off, and I'm going back to get it. And we're muddling our way through it. You know, my managers, they are they're not quite getting it that I want them to take the lead, and so that's okay. That's all right. What kind of conversations can we have? What kind of exercises? What kind of moments do I step back and go, no, you do it, and then just close my eyes and watch and see how it goes, right? Would you do it any differently, Zach? Do you have any tips for me?
No, but I do want to build you up here
Okay.
for a moment. I love storytelling, and I love being a storyteller. But could you imagine the show without Doug alongside me? I mean, Doug is like the master of parables and the master of storytelling, right? And so the show would be a lot more boring if we didn't have Doug alongside of me telling better stories. It would be capped at my level of storytelling, which is like somewhere down here. And instead I bring Doug alongside me, whose level of storytelling is like way up here, right? That's a little bit of a story. That's a little bit of a picture of what the law of empowerment is, right? Like, Doug, tell me a story. Like, just this, share away, buddy, right? Like, and you do, and we're all that much better because of that. That's what happens when you empower people to do what they're good at, right?
Well, then I don't know how to, the reality is as you say it, it makes me, even though it'll encourage me later, today it makes me feel like even more inadequate. And so I got to believe it's human nature for us to go, if Zach's impressed at what I'm bringing, oh my gosh, I can be so much better. These are the Satan attacks. What do you recommend, Zach, for people out there that know they're good at things, and maybe it's a grind, and maybe they're losing hope in the moment? Is there something that you can think of, or that you've read or experienced, that can help us reinforce those things that we're good at, to make sure we don't lie to ourselves, right?
When you get that compliment, take it.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking from experience on that, right? Like, people have complimented me, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're giving you that compliment. Listen, this is pot calling the kettle black here, right? Like, I'm sharing from my experience. Like, when you have that moment, it is hard. Just love it, man. Like, just accept it. And it is uncomfortable at first, right? But in that, find that brother that's got your six. Find that sister that's got your six, right? Like, I know if I'm having a crap day, I can reach out to EJ. I can reach out to Doug. I can reach out to, like, I have a whole team of people that I can reach out to. Man, I'm just in it today. I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
That's where it comes in. And one of the things, I'm kind of dipping away here, going back to your other point. I know I'm going in circles, but that resistance to empowering others, like, I'm experiencing that in the company right now. Like, payroll does not light me up. I don't want to run commission report. I don't give a crap about it, right? I'm just trying to figure out the technology end and hand it off. But because those stories have been told for so long, because those walls have been built around this organization for so long, right? As I'm trying to hand off the power to the people who need the power, they're fighting it. They're not realizing that I'm going, here you go. Here you go.
Such an irony.
This. Yeah.
Such an irony. Yeah.
They're so afraid of not being able to do the job that when you hand them the job to do, they don't know what to do with it. Have you built that in your own organization? Have you, and this is a challenge to the community, drop it in the comments. Don't just, hey, listen, we talked about David, right? David said, oh crap, I am the guy. Whoops. I'm telling you here, I've done it before. I did it at the appliance company. I'm the guy. I built walls around myself, not even realizing I was building walls around myself. I was not empowering my team to do what they needed to do. Are you that guy?
And you know what's funny, Zach, is you ever watch a movie and you're like, why are they building this suspense? Just say it. Just say I did it, right? And it'll all go away and the stress will, this climax will just, the reality is I've tried that with employees. Like, hey, look I don't want payroll. I just need to know how it works and how it's done, and I want to give it back to you, right? And they're thinking, nah. The story in their head might not be, and they have to take it. They have to take the ownership for themselves, and it's exhausting. Go back to Bob's real quick.
Yeah. I was.
Yes, Bob. And here's an example, a quick example.
Before you get into it, I'm going to read it out because, I know when I was watching on the phone, sometimes it's hard to see it. So,
gotcha.
Bob is asking if either of us have backed away too much. He himself went away for 3 weeks. They did great, but he's concerned that if he's not around enough, there's no leader. All right, now rock and roll with it, Doug.
Well, backing away too much. So I do like an example would be water damage or house damage. There is a specific way that Action Appliance wants to handle it. We want to be involved throughout the whole process. We want to find the contractor. We want to be a part of the whole thing. Now, that's when I was general manager and service manager. So, and then you have your technician that it happened with. So I created a process and I gave it to the service manager. And I didn't emphasize that this has to be done this way. And he handled it a little differently, which could potentially be a very expensive mistake. Whose fault was that? It was mine. It's mine because I need to let our people know what is an absolute and has to be done this way. And this is your thing. Run with it. And let's talk about it. Let me give you some input. And in my head, I'll decide where I want to maybe put my foot down or guide more directly or step back and say, hey, if it doesn't work out, it's all right. Or maybe it'll come out better than I would come up with.
But that's so Bob, on the practice. That's on the practice field. You can do that stuff on the practice field. You cannot do that stuff in the battlefield. There's a reason why processes are in place. Mm-hmm. I think that's what you're saying, right? There's a reason why there's some absolutes, some rocks, some things that just they always
it's rules engagement. The team needs to know what has to be done that way because you're sending a mixed message. Hey, I want to empower you. I want you to take the lead. If you're a technician in the house and there's a mistake, I want you to say, I can help you with that. I can take care of this for you instead of the buildup of anxiety and saying, well, I got to get a manager involved or you need to call the office, all the ugly things that could be said. But they need to know the lanes. They need to know the boundaries. And you can't be making 100,000 of those because then it's going to be hard. It's going to be like a minefield. So the question, though, for you, Bob, is do you have a leader in place when you're not there? Or is there a leader of each area that runs it while you're not there? Because you do need that. You do need to have a quarterback in place at all times.
Or do they know when to contact the coach? Right? Like you're the coach at the end of the day, you're leading the company, you're the coach. And so do they know when to okay, I got I've followed everything I can follow. Like this is outside of my bounds. Yeah. It's time to make a phone call or it's time to shoot an email. Get a text message out there. Do they know that? Have you built that into your process, right? And to Doug's point, some of those rocks could change. You could be developing a leader that has a much better way to do it, that has a much better process in mind.
That's the goal. That's what's exciting right there. Yeah.
But you can't do that in the heat of battle. That is something that happens not in the middle of it.
Yeah.
That is something you build into the next time it happens, right? So, it is a paradox. We want to be empowered. Fear of failure. We want to take charge. Yep. 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 I have myself backed away too much, Bob. Right. So when I ran the appliance company, there's times where I was so far hands off, I didn't know which way was up and which way was down. And then it becomes running amok, and bad things happen, right? And so there is that constant balance between empowering and knowing what those rocks are, knowing what those core pieces that have to always be there are.
You know something? That book, the 21 Year Futable Laws, like we got to get through it so that we can try another one, so I can trust and verify that is not a really great book. Like you start to wonder if you're just blinded by it all, but like this thing is pretty incredible, you know, and how each one of these laws tie into each other so well, like a knitted glove, like law of lid to law of empowerment. It's almost like it's really hard to do one without the other, you know? And so, Bob, I look at your question and it's like there's a test that you take about the law of the lid to kind of measure where your mindset is as a leader. And then it encourages you to go and ask your team, and then go ask your friends, and go ask your wife or your husband, and then like take the average score. I mean, that's like digging in deep to find out, are you truly a leader that empowers people around you and wants that in your inner heart? So it's 21 Irrefutable Laws, man. People got to read this book until I find out there's okay. So the 4 agreements, that was a good one for me.
That was good.
Not so much for, no, it was really good for me. It was life-changing, Zach, but this one is different. And
I
don't
like the
even
4
really...
agreements. I just think we could have done without the book.
Oh yeah. I don't know. But,
but I love it. I love it. It and when we did that test, it was really funny, because people that I think are great leaders and are really good at where they rated themselves, which is much lower than I would have placed them, right? And so
yeah.
It was kind of fun to see that. It's kind of fun to see how leadership is hard on themselves, probably, right? So if you have a leader that's being hard on you, they're probably 10 times harder on themselves.
They are.
Right.
But although I would give up, Zach, if I thought that I did really suck at it and that it wasn't clicking for me. You know, those it was for that law of the lid. It was only like 3 questions or something, and I think I completely buy into these things. When faced with a challenge, my first thought is, who can I enlist to help? Not what can I do. So you can go from 0, which is never, to 3, which is I always do that. I always do that, man. Like you know what I mean? Like I'm not bragging here. I just feel like, why not ask for help when it comes to business? Personal life, forget about it. I'm a loser. It's always 0. But when it comes to the idea of building something at Action Appliance, it gets me really excited, you know? So when my team, department, organization fails to achieve an objective, my first assumption is that it's because of a leadership issue. Of course it is. It's always my fault. It's always the leadership's fault. You know, if you keep someone around too long, whose fault is it? Right. Well, I just let the cat out of the bag. Someone keeps failing over and over and over, and a year goes by. Who's kept them around that long? You did. Right. It's if you don't make a decision fast enough, if you're freaking out about raising your service fee and you're losing money every month, and you're thinking and you just overthink it to death, it's all your fault, man. Make an action, try something, you know. So I don't know, I'm rambling, but
no, I mean, what does Dean always say? It's us until it's them.
Oh, yeah.
And you know,
if you can believe that with your whole heart, and then take the 4 agreements, because it is a good. And that came from a book, by the way, the 4 agreements. So you have to honor the book. You have to accept
the 4 agreements are great. The book is trash.
But the last agreement is after not taking any assumptions and being impeccable with your word and assuming the best of others, is just remember that you did your best, and that your best on any given day is the best that you could give on that day. Even if you are like loathing yourself and insecure and beating yourself up and doubting yourself and letting the team down, that was the best you could do that day. You got to wake up the next day, starting all over again, So.
And what you shared, I mean, so Maxwell talks about it in the book. There's two other books, one built on the other, Extreme Ownership and the Dichotomy of Leadership, right, by Jocko Willink. Those really talk about that. Like, as leaders, we got to own it, right? Like, it's on us to lead the team. And if there's a failure, it's on us to figure out where did we fail as leaders in communicating to the team what needed to happen, whether it was empowering them, whether it was creating a chain of communication, whether it was creating backstops for them to, when it goes this far, you need to, like in the case of Bob, reach out to the coach, right? Like reach out to the boss. Hey, things have gone too far. It is on us to put that stuff in place, right? So Maurice was sharing that, he went on to our website, was downloading the SOPs and stuff like that. It is on us as leaders to put the standard operating procedures in place, to put the chains of communication in place, to empower these leaders, right? Like, it's on us. And if we don't do it, it's no one's fault but our own. Own it. When you make a mistake, right? Like, own it. We talked about that earlier in the episode.
Yeah.
Just own it.
Yep.
David killed more people than he should have. He killed innocent people. He slept with some dude's wife after he had him killed. Like,
yep.
And he was able to go, oh, boy, I screwed up. You ain't...
Yeah.
It's in this community, I'm betting not a single one of you has done that. So... just own it. Whatever you did, just own it.
Yeah.
And move forward. Because you're going to see the growth that happens from just owning it.
Oh, it's a great tool.
Every day I wake up and reset with a smile, forget about yesterday, and give it your best shot today. Faux show. Oh boy, yeah. So the author was kind of like, woo, off in left field a little bit. The 4 agreements, again, in and of itself, the actual 4 agreements, which I'm sure Doug can recite by heart. Fantastic.
I will no longer recite it since it came from space aliens, Rob. So.
Oh boy, we're digressing. Yeah. Alliance News. We are moving to all YouTube broadcast on Boxing Day, December 26th and on. Only going to be on YouTube. You will not find us on Facebook. So pop on over to the Service Alliance Group YouTube channel, and that's where we're going to be. We have a new podcast coming. Hasn't been fully announced yet, and I'm not giving any more details other than that. It's coming. It's cool. TK and them kind of hit on a little bit of it, what they're doing and all that fun stuff, what the plan, what the map is for it. We haven't decided a date to release it yet, so I'll leave it at that. But they're going to be talking about everything technical, tool bag tours, truck tours, all that fun, awesome stuff. And I think that's it. We did the giveaway this past weekend. Congratulations to the winners. The email should have gone out to all the winners. If you are an All Access member, you should have received an email stating what you won. And we have you in contact with the people providing the prizes. Doug does need to rewrite. Doug, you could rewrite that book and it would be better. I'm just saying. Just saying.
What does the government do when they? What's the term when they black out all the?
They redact it.
Redact. I'll just do a redacted version of any space alien comments. I'll just I'll just remove that part of it.
You know what would be left? The 4 agreements.
Oh yeah, there it is. So I mean the canvas poster that I bought is all you need.
That's all that would be
Post
left.
that in the link. That's all you need. Don't read the damn book. It's a good poster. Hey, on some very personal sort of ASTI with a small a.
Oh yeah.
If you
Almost
go to
forgot that.
ASTI, I just want you guys to know something. I'm not normally as fat as you will look when you see me. Like I'm just on this trend of gaining a couple pounds every week and think that I need a dessert after every single meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So yeah, please don't judge me if you're there and you see me and you go, wow, I thought he might have been a little skinnier. I was, and the pants are a little tight right now. So if I'm a little red in the cheeks, it's because I can't breathe because I got a belt cinched. So anyway, just being a little insecure about my weight. Don't judge me. All right, and the crazy eye. Yeah. But
if you haven't bought your ticket yet, use promo code MEAT23.
But based on the people that I see going and commenting on Facebook that they potentially might be there, I'm really excited this year to see so many of you guys face to face, because that is taking our relationships to the next level. So appreciate it. No, Rob.
No, so in all seriousness, when you meet Doug in person, if you haven't met Doug in person, he's freaking tall. I did not expect this tall guy when I met Doug in person. And
the thing is, I'm not. Apparently, you Appliance Alliance.
I guess I'm just short.
Yeah.
I'm 5'11". I'm freaking short, apparently.
And I'm only 6 feet, so that's 1 inch. So somehow I intimidate the shit out of you, Zach. I don't know. Or maybe the beard creates a different, like it's pulling you down or something. Although my family's growing, my children and they're almost as tall as me, which is weird. And my wife thinks that I'm shrinking. I keep letting her know that they're growing and I'm probably not shrinking yet. But that's the alleged situation going on. So don't even believe this myth that Zach is saying. So.
All right, guys, we've digressed enough. We'll be back tomorrow. Mike and TK continuing with the law of empowerment. Y'all have a good day. Get out there. Love some people well.
Thank you.